We are on episode 9, Streets and Scholars, with Alex Alonso and my co-host Frank Thornton, aka FG. And what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on with it, Alex?
Man, we just nothing really, man. Just doing our weekly thing.
Hey, no, it's moving along. It's moving along.
Yeah, man, and the numbers are getting good, and all the feedback is getting good, and it's growing every week, man. And it's a process.
No, that's what's up. But we appreciate the listeners for tuning in.
No doubt. And I want to thank all the people that are listening on Spotify, Apple iTunes, and Google. Those are our 3 most listened to platforms. But there are a bunch of other podcast platforms that people are listening on. So let's start it off, man. I want to correct a couple of things from a couple episodes ago. We talked about the homie Guy Reffitt, the guy that decided to take the feds to the trial. And I mentioned a lady that did the same thing back in the correct year is 1954. Mm-hmm. And I just want to acknowledge this lady because what she did was more gangster than anyone on January 6th did, because she ran up in the same building in the name of independence for Puerto Rico with 3 other homeboys and started blasting.
Damn.
And they shot 5 Congress people.
Damn.
And she did this on March 1st of 1954. And I'm just surprised we really don't talk about it, but she really went in there and did her thing.
She went in there and did that, yeah.
And her name's Lolita LeBron, and she wasn't even supposed to be there that day. Mm-hmm. She was asked to organize the assault. But when she was asked to organize the assault, she said, I want to be a part of the assault.
Wow.
And not only was she a part of the assault, she was the leader of the assault. Yeah. So how often do you hear of a woman leading a physical attack like that against a government building?
Yeah, that's wild. They did that, though.
Yeah, so I want people to look her up. Lolita LeBron. She was born in 1919. She died in 2010 at the age of 90 years old.
Oh, so they didn't get gunned down at that time?
Nah, they didn't get gunned down. They were all taken into custody. And I had said that she got pardoned by Bill Clinton in episode 6. And she was actually pardoned by Jimmy Carter.
Oh, wow.
In 1979. Now, I remember Jimmy Carter, but barely. You probably don't remember Jimmy Carter.
I remember the name, of course.
He was the president when you was a kid.
Yeah, I was 6.
I was, you was probably younger than that.
When he pardoned her, I was 6 and 7.
Yeah, but he became president in 76.
Okay.
And that's the first president I remember as a kid, Jimmy Carter. Man. Ronald Reagan's probably the first president. Yeah. So it was like right around that period. So it was Jimmy Carter pardoned her, gave her clemency in 1979 after she sat in there for 25 years. Mm-hmm. And she actually went to a FCI for women. I forget the name of it, but I didn't even know they had FCIs for women.
Oh yeah, because they got some tough women out there. They can't just send them all to camp. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So do the women inmates on the federal level are they able to communicate with the male inmates? Is there any connection between them?
Well, it all depends what kind of facility it is. Most facilities, they're separate, But when you have some holdovers or you have some certain situations, like say MDC, on the top floor, the 9th floor is where the females were. 8th, 9th floor, they did the laundry for us. You know what I mean? So you was able to, if you knew who was up there, you was able to put a couple candy bars in your laundry, put a note in there, and get it up there to them. You know what I mean? So you was able to communicate. Or nowadays, they talk to the streets, we talk to the streets. Hey, tell such and such, send me some fresh, it's a communication that could be done, but not physically.
Okay. Well, I think what she did, and when she got out of prison and went back to Puerto Rico, she celebrated as a hero till the day she died.
I bet they did.
Because of what she did, and I mean, she put it all on the line. And I just want people to recognize that she stormed the Capitol, but she did it in a different way for a different cause. Mm-hmm. And these people on January 6th, to me, they're just a bunch of clowns, man.
Well, I mean, I'm still say they went up in there though. They
It did look crazy though, like the images on TV with them just mobbing the whole building.
Yeah, I still got to give it to him, Alice. That shit, I wouldn't have did it.
Yeah, because you know that's an automatic visit to the federal prison.
No doubt.
All right, and I remember we were talking. I believe it was episode 6 about the 4 LAPD officers that beat Rodney King. I couldn't remember the fourth one. His name was Lawrence Powell.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't have got that one in the trivia at all. Yeah.
I couldn't remember his name. So you had Stacey Kuhn, Timothy Wynn, Timothy Briseño, and Lawrence Powell. But when they went to when they got charged federally, only Lawrence Powell and Stacey Kuhn were convicted. And they were convicted to 3 years and most likely 30 months, which is what? 30 months is
2.5.
2.5 years. And the other two were acquitted. Teddy Briseño and Timothy Wynn were acquitted of the federal charges. And they were both released. The two officers were released in December of 95. And at that time, they gave Rodney King $3.8 million for those 55 blows. I think that was a nice check, though, huh?
Yeah, but they whooped his ass, though, man. I ain't gonna lie, man. But it opened the door for the police brutality.
It did, actually.
It really opened the door, and it let people know that this shit really happens. Stop thinking people just making up the stories. It's really going on out there. So by this opening up that door, more people were able to get believed in some of their cases, and
Yeah, it did open up the door because even though there were, for our generation, it opened up the door. If you go back to the 70s, in Athens Park, there was a lady named Ulia Love. 1979, she got gunned down for pulling out a butter knife in the front yard of her apartment or her house because she didn't pay her utility bill.
I stayed 2 blocks from Athens Park in 79.
So Yulia Love, EULIA Love, she was gunned down in 79, and back then, if you didn't pay your gas bill or your DWP bill, the police came to your door.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what I was reading. I was like, the police come to your door for you not paying utilities, and she didn't have the money. She was a little, I guess she was suffering from mental illness. She pulls out a knife and they just aired her out.
Wow.
No danger. She wasn't, you pull out a butter knife and you start swinging it.
Yeah.
I can snatch that out your hand.
Right.
And she was a 40-year-old lady.
Right.
They decided to shoot her down. And that was the big case for people in that generation, But yeah, definitely Rodney King opened up the door for us to look at the police differently.
No doubt.
For our generation. So yeah, man, I'm always gonna bring up Stacey Kuhn because he was the worst one of the 4.
Yeah, he was, man. That's a name that we gonna remember, man, because that shit was it was wild.
If you look at the footage, he's actually quarterbacking it. Like,
basically,
yeah. No, get them legs.
I'm surprised he got acquitted on the federal charge.
No, Stacey Kuhn was found guilty.
Oh, okay.
It was Timothy Briseño and Theodore Briseño and Timothy Wynn that were acquitted.
Oh, okay. I was finna say, man, I know he should have been.
Nah, he was the main. He's the ringleader.
Yeah,
so,
no doubt.
But 30 months ain't nothing.
Hell no.
Especially you had to look at 120 months.
Right, but it was something for them not killing somebody.
Yeah.
Now some of these cops getting manslaughter, getting 4 or 5 years for actually a murder. You know what I mean? So it was something. I mean, I was impressed that they convicted him and tried him. Tried and convicted him, but it was something, Alex.
And the reason why this came up is because of the double jeopardy issue that we talked about when it came to Juicy's case, which is still pending. They were acquitted right here in LA County, but the feds charged them for violating Rodney King's civil rights.
Right.
And they found him guilty on that. So, I'm against double jeopardy, but hey, I don't know what to say. These cops deserve to be in jail.
No doubt. You know what I mean? They getting away with shit far too long. And the only way it's gonna slow down is you start putting their ass in jail. So,
well, at least 2 of them got sent to jail. Now we had a question on the Apple podcast. Someone talked about they responded to our conversation on Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, and this comes from McCastle on Apple. He says, how come you guys didn't bring up the fact that Jada Pinkett has constantly embarrassed this man every chance she has? By the way, great show. I never miss an episode.
Well, we were. The thing about it with me is don't be trying to slander people. You
Yeah.
know, things are my personal opinion, but I feel the same way that he felt. You know what I mean? Will has been embarrassed by this lady multiple times, but you know, like the old, I think it was the Leroy Hudson song. You know, maybe he feel like, you know, well, maybe you ain't never been in love like I've been in love. You know what I mean? Because maybe he just, you know, doesn't feel like he's being embarrassed, or he's willing to forgive her every time. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, McCastle, you know, you can't just keep embarrassing me and keep embarrassing me. No, this gonna stop, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't just want to just start bashing her, you know, become a, you know, be known as the woman basher. But it's really not her fault. If he lets her do it, it's his fault. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So,
I agree. Will should have walked away from that a long time ago, and because he didn't, he must like the arrangement that they have.
no doubt, you know. So, me personally, I can't speak on what the arrangements are. We don't know the, you know, the intricate details of what it really is. But from the outside looking in, man, it has gotten really ugly, you know, from it just being rumors to now it's just like publicly in our face. Their relationship is constantly on the table in our face, you know, and just wondering who's going to take what. Jada, are you going to leave because you make it seem like, you know, you fed up with Will, or this, or Will, what are you going to do? I know it's a lot of money involved. You know, sometimes it's cheaper to keep her, but, you know, I'm going to see how it plays out.
Well, someone was telling me earlier today that they believe that Will Smith is going to slap divorce papers on Jada Pinkett within the next 6 to 8 months. And I said, if he hasn't done it yet, I think it's highly unlikely he's going to do it now.
I think he will, Alex. You know what I mean?
Is
And
that right?
I said that too. I didn't even give him 6 to 8 months. You know, I gave him enough time for his lawyer to sort out the money part. You know what I mean? And I think he's going to finally get up out of there.
Well, if he does that, he's probably going to do it by the advice of people around him telling him to get rid of her. But if it was his own decision, I'm saying he's sticking with her because she satisfies every single desire that he has, whatever they are. I have no idea what all his desires are, but it's clear Jada satisfies them.
I don't think she do. I mean, like I say, I don't know him personally. You know, I'm only an outsider. You know, I think that he became so big and so famous and so powerful. It's, you know, it's kind of like the president. You know what I mean? You don't want to have a divorce while you're in the presidency. You know, you want to, you know, keep everything together until this train slows down or stop. You know, Will was one of the, you know, best actors, you know, most accolades in the world. You know what I mean? So, I think for them to, because they were known as the perfect couple for so long, I think they tried to keep that for a minute. Now it's not there no more, so I don't think it's a problem for him to get on, you know, and going about his life and save a little face doing it.
Well, it's going to be a very expensive divorce if he does it, man. It's going to be like Dr. Dre's divorce.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think he's got to break her off $100 million or something.
I mean, you know, depending on how many you have, you know what I mean. You know, you got to realize it though too. And I'm the main dude talk shit about dudes that, you know, don't give her nothing. You know what I mean. But when you go about it, and that's not a 2 or 3 year marriage. This not the Mike Tyson situation where you marry 6 months, a year, and, you know, now you got to give up half your money. No, this is a situation where Dr. Dre's wife was with him 18 years. Will and Jada have been together 20-some years. You know, she deserve her. I mean, you know, give her $100 million. You know what I mean? If that's the case, you know. But for me, my peace is worth more than any amount of money. You know, and I don't think he's peaceful in that situation anymore.
Well, I think that the optics is bad, but I think when he goes home, everything's cool. I just think he's being embarrassed publicly. If the embarrassment wasn't so public, I think he could deal with whatever Jade is dishing out at home. But I don't know if the public embarrassment is enough for him to file those divorce papers.
Well, let's pass embarrassment. To me, is humiliation. And it's the difference between embarrassment, you embarrassing me a little bit, but this is humiliation. You know what I mean? So the thing about it is she dropped the ball by, you know, like you said, he might have knew exactly what she was doing, but long as he was being fulfilled on his end, he wasn't tripping, you know. But when you know, publicly humiliate me, you know, I'm the biggest dude and one of the biggest actors in the world, and you just like tore me all the way down. Yeah. And the respect level from the world has crashed down on Will. You know, I mean, I really don't think he can recover. I don't know what he can do. You know what I mean?
All he got to do is make a hit movie, and he'll be back on track. But let's talk about that because it seems like they're trying to cancel him and I think now it's getting a little bit too far.
Well, Netflix and another company pulled their movies off the shelf that he's played in. And I mean, I seem like they would still want to get their money. Those are movies that's been done and been up. But I read they actually start pulling them off of Netflix, and it was another company. I just can't remember what it was. Stop, selling his movies.
What about the 10-year ban from the Academy Awards?
I didn't look too big into that, So, I mean, you wouldn't want it there anyway, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Not like that. Y'all do the song and dance for him to be in a association. I don't think that'll hurt him too bad. If he can get back up and rolling, I think the only way he can do it, sorry to say, is if he divorced Jada. Rebrand his image. It's sad to say because we talking about a husband, a wife, a family. You know what I mean? But if he's trying to rebrand his image, you know what I mean? You got to get rid of Jada. Go do some, some power moves. Express that you was dumb for, and people will forgive you. But up until then, hey, it's gonna be what it's gonna be.
Well, the Netflix project that Will Smith was on has only been paused. Mm-hmm. That means to me they're just gonna take a little time out, let everything cool down, and then let's finish this project and make that money.
You know what? Hey, we're gonna see. I think the money gonna stand by Will. You know what I mean? Because people are still gonna go. I still watch a Will Smith movie. I don't have no problem with that. It's just I am a little disappointed. That and I don't look at it one way. If he would have embarrassed his wife in a certain kind of way like that, I would feel the same way for her as far as. Don't humiliate me like that in public, period. You know what I mean? So it's not a one-way street. It just,
Hey, I think Tupac would have whipped that ass if she did that to him.
It wouldn't have got this far. See, that's the thing about it.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like training kids, you know what I mean? If you just let them run wild up until they 6, they're going to be bad. If you nip it in the bud at 1 and 2 and 3, she wouldn't have did no stuff like that.
Or Tupac would have left her years ago.
You know what I mean? But it's nothing wrong for, like I say, their wedding arrangements and what they allow in their marriage. I don't knock that. You know what I mean? That's between them two. I don't knock that part. But at the end of the day, you mess with a rat, because that's what August basically ended up being. He was ready to tell, couldn't hold his emotions as a man, and I'm more mad at him than I'm mad at anybody.
Yeah, no doubt, because he probably she probably cut it off at some point, and then he got upset about it.
Yeah, man, but you supposed to hold you got to hold it, man. It's when you doing something sneaky or creepy or a crime or, come on, man, you can't go back and. But emotions are emotions, and everybody have them, and some just weigh more than others. And hey, man, he was in love, I guess.
Yeah, or she really whipped it on him.
Shoot, I guess they whipped it on each other because they both seemed like they was,
Well, I'm not gonna use love. That was lust. That was lusting. But they also put in Will Smith's I Am Legend. I guess he's got an I Am Legend project coming out. And that's one of my favorite movies, though. Whenever I see the original I Am Legend, I'm not flipping through the channels because we don't turn
right.
But whenever I'm going through the channels and I see I Am Legend, I stop and I just watch it
watch
again.
A little piece, huh?
Yeah, I love that movie. So that they put that project on hold. So they really trying to I don't know what they're trying to do to Will. They're trying to make it look good.
They're trying to play it safe, like you say. It's gonna look good. You know what I mean? To see what his outcome become. Maybe they're seeing that he's really messed up in the head behind this relationship stuff, man, and maybe he need a pause. Maybe it's not so much the company. Maybe he need a pause in order to get his shit together and to see how he gonna bounce back or see how he gonna take it.
No doubt, man. Well, I'm hoping for a Will Smith comeback. I think the canceling of all his projects is a little over the top. Yeah, I know he smacked the dude on live television on one of the biggest stages, but he shouldn't go to jail for it.
No, not jail, nothing like that. But he should be humiliated by it, and he should be condemned from his folks by it.
I feel like if the police want to charge him with a misdemeanor assault, fine. But what does Netflix? What does Netflix want to get involved? The Netflix is not a court.
No, not at all.
I Am Legend project's not court.
And nobody give a damn if Netflix play them or not. You'll never hear. I'm not watching Netflix because they keep playing Will Smith movies. You'll never hear that. Yeah,
nobody tripping on that.
Yeah, you'll never hear that.
I mean, I think Will Smith is one of the biggest actors to even be on Netflix. They should owe this dude a debt of gratitude.
Right, gratitude, yeah, for
You
even
know?
coming on y'all platform
Yeah.
to do stuff, yeah.
So I hope it all works out. Eventually, I think it's all gonna just blow over, and Chris Rock is gonna make a whole lot of money talking about it.
No doubt. The homie just went down there to see him Friday at the at his comedy show. He said he's not talking about the slap until he get his money.
Oh, okay, okay. He's gonna do a special tour.
Yeah, man.
Just for that. That's cool. But hey, let's talk about this Cain Velasquez, man. This is my favorite inmate right now.
Man.
This is the brother that we talked about on episode 6. For those that are unaware of Cain Velasquez and what he did, go back to episode 6, 5 or 6, and listen to the whole thing. We went into detail about Cain Velasquez, but he had a court date this week, and his lawyers just filed. They filed for a future date to come back to court. So he's still in jail, man.
Yeah. I thought he was gonna get a bail on this go round, but hopefully when he go back, May 6th?
Yeah, May 6th.
Go back May 6th, man. He can get something, man, because he just sitting in there and that's not cool. And this other guy just out running around chilling, probably doing the same kind of activity he was doing before.
Now, I contacted one of his lawyers on the case, and this is what the lawyer told me. They said that they postponed the hearing until May 6th, and on May 6th, they will ask the court for Cain's release, and they will set a date for the preliminary hearing. And they just kept it that brief for me. I have more questions, but I guess attorneys got to be careful how much they say.
No doubt.
But she didn't even say bail. They're just gonna say we want him to be released because you know what? Harry Galarte was released.
Hell yeah, he was.
I said he was out on bail a couple episodes ago, and that was incorrect.
Right,
they just released him.
Exactly.
So if you're gonna release a CHOMO, right?
Hey,
just release this dude.
No doubt. But they may ask for the release, and they still may, consider a bail. But I just hope either way, you get out and be able to fight his case from the street. Be able to go be with his kids, man.
I mean, he's not a flight risk. He's a well-known fighter. They could take his passport. What's he gonna do?
No doubt, but they are trying to set the example of you just can't be jumping out in the middle of the street trying to gun somebody down too. So I understand what they're probably trying to do, but at the end of the day, man, let this guy get out.
Yeah, let me read a statement he made. This is his first statement since he's been arrested. He posted this to his Twitter page, and he wrote, "To everyone that has expressed your support, my family and I will never be able to thank you enough. From the bottom of our hearts and the depths of our souls, we are forever grateful for your love. Your selfless gestures and kind words have given me strength in my darkest times. This story is complex and slowly unraveling as we speak. To the true victims of this case," I like that line.
Right.
"To the true victims of this case, may God give you the strength to come forward, though it is most difficult to relive the pain that has happened to you. In speaking the truth, justice will be served and your own true healing will start. I will never stop helping or loving my community and all of you. Thank you for loving me, Cain Velasquez." That was posted today.
Wow.
And it sounds as if that he's asking for other people who may have been molested, please come forward.
That's exactly how I took it.
And remember, you said that if there's more coming forward, that can seal the deal against Harry Galarte.
No doubt, man. But it need to be sealed.
Yeah.
Because this kind of behavior, just running around and molesting kids, man. I mean, damn, and you just still out here. That's not cool for me,
So yeah, I like that line. "To the true victims of this case, may God give you the strength to come forward." So we'll see if there's other people that was at this school that may have possibly been molested, and that will definitely strengthen the case against Harry Galarte, and it may even weaken the case against Cain Velasquez. He won't be the only family man out there with a victim from this dude.
No doubt, but at the same time, they do want to take the shootings in the street serious. But I think this is a special circumstance case where you should take everything into consideration, the emotions, the rage, the things that happen and use them to, not forgive Cain, but, be a little lenient on him,
No doubt. I'm going to stand by, he should be released, and I would be disappointed if the prosecutors go against him as aggressively as they would go against the Chomo dude. But I know what they got to do their thing because he shot the stepfather, 62-year-old person that was in the car
Right.
with the dude. So I mean, I don't know what to say about that, man. I saw a nice piece of art. It said "Free Cain." Here's a question I have. When Cain was in court the last time, or even today, when he came into court today, they not only have him handcuffed, they got him shackled to his waist. And I remember a few times you would see somebody in the county. The few times I have been in the county, some brothers are just normally handcuffed walking through.
Right.
But then there's other dudes handcuffed around the waist. But then there's other dudes around the waist and the ankles.
Right.
Why is Cain Velasquez coming into court chained around the waist as well?
Well, it could just be maybe the jurisdiction that he's still up in Santa Clara.
Yeah.
So it could be a policy that they have, or they could also just know that this is a high profile case. So they want to make sure that they showing the public that they're not taking a lien at all. It's little things like this they do because, the guy's not going to escape. So you could have him in just a pair of handcuffs and he would still get back and forth. But, some of this, it could be procedures at that courthouse. It could be different things,
It look ugly to me. Like, why do you got this dude looking like a slave?
They want it to look ugly. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. They could just put him in some handcuffs and he going to go in there and do the exact same thing. Here is court here, and he not finna act crazy and try to run out nowhere. So they do a lot of these things for effect, and they know it's a high profile case. They see people watching. They want to know that when you mess up in our county, this is how we're going to treat you.
Now, when you were going to all your court hearings in the feds, would you be able to just walk right into the courtroom, freely, uncuffed? No, they actually cuff you into
like Cain Velasquez, yeah,
exactly like that.
Yep, and I had my hands. Matter of fact, when Frank, he had a little situation. Frank DeGiacomo, my old attorney, he had a little situation where after he had surgery, he kind of almost fainted, and I tried to catch him, but I got my hands, to my side. The deputy ended up grabbing him, and you know what I mean. But yeah, man, they drag you in there, man. Like you done committed 6 murders and shit. You know what I mean? And like I say, they want your family to see this. They would send me right out there in handcuffs. I'm gonna do the same thing, walk in and walk out.
Yeah, I guess they only let you not be cuffed if you're going to trial, so that a jury, the jury gets to see you in a suit,
in a humanized fashion. Yeah.
That's crazy. So that's like for every single time you're in the courtroom, they bring you in like that.
And they bring you in like that, take you out like that, and then get right back in the back and take it off. And put you in the cell. But it's no. Like I say, they do it for a lot of effect, but it also could be to protect, in their minds, somebody from trying to jump over to, say, somebody that's in the audience, a prosecutor, or, a court clerk or something. So, but it don't need to be at that level, of security,
Now, what about when inmates are being transported from, I don't know, point A to point B to point C? Are there different levels of cuffing when, in your experience, on the federal level? Like some people are cuffed on the ankles because I guess they deem them more of a threat than the next guy.
Well, it's standard operating procedure in certain places. You know what I mean? And going through transport, you're definitely going to be shackled at the ankles. You're shackled at the waist. The problem I had was, certain shit, but being on an airplane. Shackled at the waist, shackled at the ankles. If this thing go down, and they know, trying to eat your sandwich with being shackled at the waist, trying to, use the restroom, being shackled at the waist, on an airplane, your survival, if it's hit the water and it don't sink so fast, you definitely ain't gonna be doing no swimming.
Y'all are drowning, right?
We drowning, baby. We out of there.
Can't swim like that.
But yeah, they make sure that they, standard operating procedure when you in transport. A lot of times when you're in the county jail, they could have you with just a minimum handcuffs on. But I remember even back in the county jail, for some reason, if you was on the main line, you could just be handcuffed to somebody else with one hand. When you coming out that blood or that crib module, oh man, they had you shackled down. You know what I mean? So it's just, like I say, different places, different people.
I was just shocked to see Cain Velasquez shackled like that.
They didn't have to do that, man. I'm gonna just be totally honest with you. They didn't have to do that.
It's ridiculous. So when you got transported from place to place at the federal level, they would put you in planes?
Oh yeah, depending on where you're going, because federal is the USA. So you fly in different airports, fly in different hubs, and hey man, they transport. All this is a job for they have air marshals. This is an everyday job, man, where they just flying inmates across the country every day. You know.
I guess the federal level they got more money because the homeboy from J-Stone, Fruittown, Piru, he said when they took him to that private prison in Arizona, way up from another prison in California, it was like a 20-something hour bus ride.
Yeah. Now they do both. You know what I mean?
And you can't use the bathroom the entire bus ride.
Man, they make it hard on you, man. I mean, you really treat it like...
How you can't use the bathroom for 20 hours?
Hey, bro.
You cannot take a dump for 20 hours.
No, not at all. You know what
That's
I mean?
the rule.
Hey, that's not at all. You know what I mean? So a couple days before, you better slow down on your eating.
Do you get a warning when you're going to be transported on a certain date? So you...
Well, once you go on the transport, once you transpack, when you take your belongings to R&R, and pack them up, you finna be moving. So you don't know what time, what date. They try to keep that a secret from you, man. But you finna be moving. So you get ready. Say, look, my phone cut off and my email cut off. I'm moving.
Yeah.
And I never forget. I didn't tell my wife where I was going. So I end up in Oklahoma. So and I called her, and I'm like, hey, I didn't even tell her I was going to go do time in Texas, but right this moment I'm in a facility in FDC, Oklahoma. So I got jumped on the phone. Hey, what's going on? She like, what the hell are you doing in Oklahoma? They can actually track you over the. She said when my email, and they sent the email to say you can no longer email is gone. She went to BOP.gov. You know the women, they gonna do the investigation.
Yeah.
You can't get the.
She's just making sure you ain't getting no other visits.
Right. Hell, you doing it in Oklahoma? You know what I mean? But yeah.
So, but when you're on a plane, you can go use the bathroom though, right?
I mean, you ain't gonna go piss and that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, sit your ass back down.
But at least the plane trip is not 20 hours.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, I couldn't believe that you're supposed to be on a bus for 20 hours and you can't take a dump not one time. That's crazy.
No, man, it's inhumane.
Yeah. Well, hopefully on May 6th, Cain Velasquez will get out of jail and he'll be able to fight his case as a free man. And well, good luck to him. We'll keep you guys updated on Cain Velasquez. But since we're talking about CHOMOs, I wanted to ask you some questions about with this U.S. Supreme Court, our new U.S. Supreme Court Justice. I want to say congratulations to Kentaji.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Kentaji Brown Jackson. The first black woman in 250 years to be on the U.S. Supreme Court. But the Republicans did not vote for her, with the exception. Actually, no. How many? No.
I think it was
two or three.
Yeah, in the
two or
House,
three.
yeah.
But the ones that didn't was because of a CHOMO. Well, that's what I want to ask you. I don't even know if it's really a CHOMO case, but basically, a 17-year-old kid got caught with naked pictures of boys on his computer of kids that were the ages of 13 to 18, or depending on what the source, another source said from ages 11 to 17. He was 18 at the time. He got caught with these pictures, and it's against the law.
Right.
It's against the law. So she gave them 3 months in jail, 5 years probation. At the time, he could have got like 6 years in prison. Kentaji Brown Jackson said, because you're a teenager and you was looking at teenage boys, I'm not going to give you the whole 7-8 years. I'm going to give you some time so you can reflect on what you did. And I'm going to give you a long ass probation period. And that's basically what it is. So my question is, he never touched on one. He never had sex with anybody. Is he still considered a CHOMO from, politics of prison?
I think even the politics of prison would have some kind of understanding a little bit. You know what I mean? Because if you got boys 11 to 17 on your thing, It could have been a situation where he just turned 18. We don't know how long he was even 18 when they caught him.
It's true. Actually, he was doing this from 17 and 18 years old. They was able to track him, and then they figured out he was 17 and then 18 when he was doing this.
Okay. So yeah, you looking at underage boys, you know. It'd be in there somewhere where somebody would be like, well, damn, you know, I mean, it's hard to call him a chomo just based on, dude, you 17, you looking at a 15-year-old boy, you know, I mean, you gay, obviously, you know what I mean? But
yeah, there's no doubt about that part.
I mean, this is the thing about it. A man that has raised, 4 kids past the age of 18 at this moment. When you're in high school, you turn 18 years old, most people. You can't go back and go date a 16-year-old, even though back in the day, it was totally fine. Now, you really have to teach your kids to be conscious that when you turn 18 years old, this is illegal. It's not unthinkable, because you're only 2 grades in front of her or him. But it's illegal now.
Yeah, because let's say you're a senior in high school, you're 17, and you're dating a 10th grader that's 15.
Right.
Then let's say, okay, now a year later, you turn 18, that 15-year-old is now 16. It's a little different now, right?
It's a little different now. And even back when I was in high school, my god brother, he was a 9th grader, and he dated a senior. You know what I mean? And for our side, it was more or less like, hey, go bro. You know what I mean? But nobody realized that this was an 18, 17-year-old girl dating a 14, 15-year-old boy. It was no problem back then. You know what I mean? But it's still illegal. So in his situation, it could be some kind of amount of understanding there. But it's hard to call him a chomo, bro.
Yeah, and that's what the judge said in her sentencing. I was reading some of it. She said, because you are so close in age with the people, with the boys in the photos, I am less likely going to sentence you to the max. I think the max was 7 or 8 years, which to me would have been crazy, right? You got 8 years for having pictures on your computer.
Right.
I'm not even understanding the connect. And, let me add this part. These are pictures that he found out were already on the internet. He didn't take these pictures. Right. He don't even know who's in these pictures. He just downloaded them that were already on the internet. So that's another part of it.
Well, it's a delicate situation. But like you said, at the end of the day, I think dudes would understand, I think people would understand, but everything's not fully explained in prison. When you get to prison and you walk through the door, somebody gonna say, "Oh no, dude is convicted of dating under, having child porn," and nobody's probably, only a few people gonna say, "Well, damn, how old is he? He look young, he look young. How old is he?" And if you say he 18, well, damn, when you turn 18, 3 months ago, so you was doing this at 17, you don't get that kind of comfort all the time. You know what I mean? So.
You don't get that understanding from other guys.
From other guys. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, but by him coming in saying that they were underage boys that he was looking at, people want to know if they was babies. Man, how old was they? Well, they was 15, 17, 12, and you was 17, okay. They wasn't 3, they wasn't 2, they wasn't, it's a situation that I would never have a conversation with because it wouldn't come to my desk based on, for one, that wouldn't come across my desk. I don't know if the chomo's got a shot caller or something that they, you know what I mean? Because he definitely would be going to a low level. He'd probably go to a camp. He's never been convicted. He wouldn't even make it to a yard. He'd make it to a camp. So it wouldn't be an issue. Okay. Just to be, if you go technical with it,
But my question is the definition of what a chomo is in prison politics well determined?
It's the difference between child porn and actual chomo.
I always thought a chomo had to put hands on.
That's why I say it's a difference. A child porn is dude looking at the kids on the internet. You know what I mean? You disgust me. But a chomo, no, he needs to be physically handled. You know what I mean? He needs to be physically beaten, stabbed, whatever needs to be done if you're a chomo. But it is a different, he the child porn guy, yeah, you disgust me, you're despicable. But, the chomo, nah, man, it need to be physical, you got to take that serious because you actually molested someone.
Yeah, but you know what? I think the courts look at him as saying, hey, this guy could be a future chomo, so let's aggressively treat him, through the judicial system now rather than wait. Now, I don't know if there's any truth to if teenage boys that look at teenage boys are future chomos. I don't even know if that's true, but
future chomos, bro. Because what you're gonna do is turn 19. Now you're gonna be trying to get a little boy 16. And you know what I mean? In your mind, I'm only 3 years older, blah blah. That's your mind, bro. That's illegal. You know what I mean? In any situation, it's illegal. So that's a chomo.
Well, he's 27 years old now. His name is Wesley Hawkins. So I want to track this motherfucker.
Right.
And see what he does in his life.
Yeah.
Because maybe he's an example of someone that was just dabbling with some stuff as a confused teenage boy and then realized, hey, that was some dumb shit I was doing.
Well, I think all he did was learn the law. So he's 27. He may have an 18-year-old right now, because he knows the law. You know what I mean? But that don't mean so much his behavior or his preferences changed. You know what I mean? So I would just say he learned his lesson with the law, to not mess with anything underage. But that don't mean, he still might not be preying on younger boys.
Well, it was really interesting how he got caught. I guess the feds have all these dudes out there on the internet watching people, and a fed responded to him and said, hey, we have similar interests. And then he started communicating with that fed. Mm-hmm. And then I guess the fed said, hey, what else do you have? And he said, oh, I have this picture. Oh, I have this video. Oh, I got this off the internet. And boom, that's how he got charged.
Man. Yeah, I'm glad they out there. I'm glad they out there patrolling the net.
Yeah,
trying to stop this sort of thing. So much of it, slip through the cracks and people get away. But I believe that he was, with him being dealt with at a young age, I believe it may help him later on to knock it off.
What do you think of Judge Kentaji Brown Jackson only giving him 3 months in prison and a 5-year probation, as opposed to the 7 or 8 years he could have got?
I don't think he would deserve 7, 8 years. Being that he didn't touch her. He internet shopping. He looking. He has a taste for but he hasn't acted. You can run up in my house and find plans for me to rob this bank all you want, but if I haven't robbed it yet, you don't give me 10, 8, and 7 years. Give me my 1 little 2 years. So I'm gonna be fair with him. You know what I mean? Don't even though, like I say, in his mind, he wasn't being a chomo. He was being a kid that turned 18.
But is the 3 months like almost nothing though?
No, it was definitely nothing. But we don't know the kid's background. Dude could have really been just a good kid that was kind of confused on a few things that didn't seem like he had wicked ways. I'm sure they read his emails. I'm sure they read text messages. I'm sure they read a lot of stuff that could have, and then again, you just never know who. You know what I mean? She could have did that based on somebody came and said, hey, dummy that down for us. Don't get me wrong. Them back alley politics still in effect.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that he could have got 7 or 8 years, but I do think 3 months is not enough to teach this boy a lesson. I think maybe 1 year. I think so. So that's the whole thing of why so many Republicans were against her nomination. Because I was just reading like, oh, she's a chomo lover. She's giving pedophiles a pass. So I just said, let me figure out how many cases. It's just this one case.
Well, the thing about it, I don't think it's even so much the chomo part. The Republicans are against, a lot of them are against gay activity. So they're stood on that. They used to run on that as their core values until the gay lesbian community got so big and kind of strong that they started having to kind of cater to them a little bit to try to get them votes. But originally their beliefs are against gay people. So I'm not sure if it's so much that the case that they believed he was a chomo and that he should have got more time based on the crime itself, or Is it because it was boy on boy and they don't, a lot of the Republicans didn't believe in, homosexuality?
Well, I think a lot of Democrats are against homosexuality too.
I don't agree with you on that.
You don't think so?
No, man, they push homosexuality down our throat every chance they get.
But what about in church? That in church they preach against homosexuality, and the church is mostly Democrats.
Yeah, but the Democrats themselves, if you go look at some of the policies they make, you know what I mean? They line it straight up for the gay, lesbian community.
That's true.
They look. Who's talking about kids of 12 being able to decide their gender? Who's talking about all the kids can, it's teaching homosexuality or non-gender in school. You know what I mean? That's Democrats. That's not the Republicans.
Well, there was this Republican dude that was caught in a bathroom trying to do a gay act some years ago. So I think these Republicans, they just playing the game.
I mean, it could be, but I'm saying back in the day, because we are older, they used to stand on that, but since it's got popular and strong, and they have to be in, but back in the day, if you talk about back in the 80s and 90s and in the 70s, the Republicans didn't want to have nothing to do with the homosexuals. They wouldn't come out outright. You wasn't getting nominated if you're an openly gay person. You wasn't, they didn't, that wasn't one of their values, and like I say, nowadays, the Democrats, it seem like they shoving it down our throats, by trying to tell us, put it in school, teachers in school, non-genders in school, you could be 6, and if you want to be identified as a, no.
Yeah, I think if you're in politics and you're a Democrat, you got to be open to homosexuality. But when I have private conversations with people that I know are Democrats, they don't co-sign that at all.
No, I got you. I got you. And those are, we talk to old school people who believe in certain things, but at the same time, they run and they try to get that vote and do everything they can. Listen, everywhere you go right now, you don't even see a men's and women's restroom no more. You see an all-gender restroom.
Yeah.
That's effective. The policies that come down to cater to that. And I'm not here to say what's wrong and what's right. I'm saying I notice what's being pushed and what's not,
Well, I think they need to have separate bathrooms. I remember when I was in college, and we're talking about 94, 95. Now, I went to USC. USC had boys' bathrooms and girls' bathrooms.
Right.
I went to go visit Cal Berkeley for a football game. It's the first time I seen a co-ed bathroom in my life. And, Berkeley is the center of all this thinking, all this philosophy, and all this acceptance. So I was like, this is 94. I'm walking in a co-ed bathroom at Berkeley.
No doubt. And see, now it's getting a little deeper, because now they want to let, if you identify as a man, a woman, and you're a man, you can go play on the college basketball team as a woman. That's where it's come on now, stop at some point.
Yeah, that's unfair.
If you want to be identified as a woman, okay, that's fine. But you can't go run women's track and you a man. And I think there's a situation like that going on just recently.
Yeah.
Where the guy was born a guy, was running track, and identified as a woman, beating everybody. I don't know, where's your integrity for one, but at the same time, I mean, this shouldn't be allowed,
Yeah, it's an unfair advantage for those, what are we calling them? Transgender?
Transgender, yeah.
I used to call them transvestites, but somebody told me you can't say that anymore.
Right. You can't say that anymore.
I didn't know that.
And the sad thing about it is just, certain stuff we can't say anymore.
Hey, I'm going to say transvestite because in the 80s, I went to Hollywood High School.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well,
so in Hollywood, that's all you saw. I used to walk out of school, walk the boulevard, and see nothing but transvestites.
Man.
And I would be like, hey, that's a dude? Or a woman? Oh, that's a dude. For real? How can you tell? No, that's a dude. No, that's a woman. So for my whole senior year, I was exposed to what we call transvestites.
Man. I
was using this word, I don't know, a year ago, and somebody said, no, you can't say that word. I said, why? They said, because it sounds too much like, what was the word? It sounds too much like something negative. But yeah, I guess now it's transgender.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think they should be competing with a different gender than their original one. But I think that Kentaji Brown Jackson was being hated on by the Republicans also because she's a black woman. I think you can combine, she has this one predator, let's say pedophile.
Right.
She has this one case out of like 25-year career, and I'm reading like, oh, this woman must have done this 100 times. Like, how many pedophiles did she give lenient sentence to? One case.
Yeah, but at the same time, they sit there and say, which she definitely is a black woman. But have you seen her husband?
I heard that she's got a white husband.
And at the same time, I'm still having the sour taste in my mouth from the Clarence Thomas nomination because I thought that was a step for us forward.
Well, he was a Republican from the beginning.
No doubt, but you still a black man.
You weren't getting nothing from Clarence Thomas at all, period.
And we did. You know what I mean? So I hope she come in there and show us a little something different. But at the same time, politics is politics. And we'll see how it goes.
Hey, some of these people that know that they have a career in politics, they marry people for legacy reasons. Like, they know that, hey, if I marry this woman or man, that's going to help my career.
Oh, no doubt.
That's why Clarence Thomas got a white wife.
Oh, no doubt.
That puts him in. Do you know that his white wife may have been quarterback in the January 6th Capitol riot?
You best believe it, because she definitely made statements, that she was supporting it. You know what I mean?
She may have quarterbacked that whole thing.
But like I say, he proved to me long time ago that, in a few votes that, what he was really about. So, I have, and it's not a Republican or Democrat thing. It was just at the same time, he showed me his hand a long time ago.
Well, I think we're going to get a little bit more out of Kentaji Brown Jackson, but who knows, it remains to be seen what side that she kind of lies on. But right. Hey, if she's going to give this guy, by the way, is a brother that she gave the 3-month sentence to. If she felt that much compassion to understand that he's only 17, 18, I'm not gonna give him all day. So that lets me know that maybe she is on the side of social justice, fairness, equality, things of that sort.
Why she can't be on the side of homosexuality, and she took
she didn't answer the question, right?
She definitely didn't answer the question.
Well, that doesn't mean she's on his side. That means I want to get nominated, and I don't want to give an answer that's going to put me in a corner. Right. I think she just danced around the answer. Yeah. I think she went home and she says, I know what the hell I wanted to say. But I couldn't say that.
No doubt. No. And I'm not knocking her, but I just,
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
But it is historic.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it is historic.
No doubt. We got a sister on the U.S. Supreme Court bench. Ain't never happened before. All right. Last thing, we talked about this, the MORE Act, and you mentioned a few things last week about what is it really going to do. Mm-hmm. So I pulled out this whole long document and I went straight to the expungement section.
Okay.
So this is what it's going to do for the expungement.
Because when I listened to the podcast, it was, when I re-listened to it, I did say, he did have a point. Expungement comes after. But what'd you come up with?
But they're very specific. If you have a previous conviction after 1971 up until the day this bill passes, if it passes,
yeah.
Let's say it passed today. If you got a weed conviction between 71 and today, and it's nonviolent, you can get it expunged. Now you asked about what if I'm sitting in jail right now, right? They even said if you have a current case, which means you're incarcerated, you can file a motion to get either a reduced sentence or to get out of jail now if this passes. So they have this clearly written under the expungement section.
Okay.
But it has to be nonviolent.
Right.
You could have a weed case with a gun.
That's gonna be they gonna.
That might not be but it's got to be a nonviolent weed conviction and a nonviolent weed case. So and the bill says that the SBA, the Small Business Administration, is going to give out money for those who need help with their expungements. Because you got to get a lawyer, you got to file motions, you got to go to the courthouse. It ain't going to be like something, you got to do that work. And there's going to be money for those that need the money to get the attorneys, to get the paperwork done. So I think that it's if it gets passed, I think it's got some good things written in it for expungement.
No. After you just cleared that up, it definitely made me feel a lot better for the guys who in there. I just don't know if that many nonviolent people in there sitting in there for weed that haven't been came home yet. But if it is, that's great.
I actually believe there's more than we think.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people.
Man, that'll be awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So all juveniles will get their convictions expunged. And for people who are currently under sentence, you can also have your nonviolent weed conviction expunged. And my favorite part of it is that they got this thing called the Cannabis Restorative Opportunity Program. And this is where the Small Business Administration is going to allow people who have been previously convicted on weed to now be able to get a license to start your own weed store.
Oh, wow.
And you know what? I was talking to Freeway Ricky Ross not too long ago, and he told me he was going to apply to get his license so he can sell weed. And I was like, wait up. You a convicted felon.
Felon, yeah.
He's like, nah, they're going to make it eligible for people like me. So this bill actually puts it in there that, but you have to have, I don't know how it's going to work for him. He's a convicted cocaine felon.
So I don't know how it's going to work for him. I don't know how it's going to work, period, just based on this. If you legalize anything, when they legalize liquor, guess what you see on every corner? A liquor store.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so people who want to open up, you know, weed franchises or weed shops or weed businesses, I mean, the competition is going to be ferocious. So, I mean, it's a good thought, but until you see a weed shop on every single corner, you're going to reconsider, you know, if you want to be in that kind of competition or not.
Absolutely. You know, they wanted to open up a weed spot a block away from where we're at right now, and they send letters to all the residents. And you know what my response was? I was like, nah,
right.
I don't want that right there. That's too close.
Right.
You know, I don't want I don't want that there, because I know that every single weed spot, at some point, there's going to be some drama.
There's going to be some violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to rob them.
Exactly.
Everybody looking to rob the weed man.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
But the cities that are going to allow these dispensaries, it's their responsibility to not give out too many of the licenses, I guess. But then who do you give them out to?
Who do you give them out to? Yeah.
And, you know, I saw a documentary that said that the white people are the ones running the weed dispensaries.
Oh, no doubt.
And then actually, here's another interesting thing about this bill, if it passes, is that it's going to guarantee that people of color and racial minorities get the opportunity to open up their own weed dispensaries. Because right now it's like dominated by white folks. I think they own 90% of the dispensaries.
Right.
And they're doing dispensaries in our communities, and brothers who want to do it, they can't do it. So that's another thing that's written in this bill. But man, when I'm reading all this stuff, I'm like, man, the Republicans ain't gonna vote. Yeah. They're not gonna vote for this thing.
Yeah.
So I took a deep dive into it, and
I'm glad you did, because you now I can maybe correct somebody when I hear some somebody don't understand a little bit, and they may have a weed conviction, and it's nonviolent. You may be able to go get this expunged, which could help you do other things in life, because that may be the only thing you have on your record.
Yeah, I was thinking about Reggie Wright. Reggie Wright can get his weed conviction expunged because his was nonviolent.
Right.
So we'll see, but I don't think this thing got a chance of passing.
You know what? It's anything possible, but I don't either. But anything possible. I hope it do.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope it do. But and then also it was introduced by a politician from New York named Gerald Nadler, who I never heard of. But you had asked who's the one who put it forward. But yeah, for anyone who's interested in the expungement part of this bill and you want to look it up, just look up 3056. It's section 3056 of the bill. The bill is pretty long. Most of these bills are like hundreds of pages long.
Yeah.
So you got to get straight to the sections that you want. And so 3056 talks about the expunging convictions and those who want to start their own cannabis companies. That talks about that there. And then under 3056, section 10 also talks about expungements. And going back to 1971, that's 50 years of convictions.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt just to wipe it off. I mean, most people probably home. Some, you know what I mean? It's not gonna hurt them.
Now, I was thinking, how would you feel if they was passing a bill that dealt with cocaine convictions, nonviolent cocaine convictions?
Well, first I would have to say, I'm not eligible. You know what I mean?
Why is that?
I have prior violence.
No, but you have prior violent convictions, but your cocaine conviction is not violent. Yeah.
Right.
So that's a nonviolent.
Right, but they pretty much did that already. You know what I mean? If they was to wipe the whole thing out, I mean, I would love that.
Yeah.
But let's be honest with you. A lot of things you trying to do in life, like you say, for me, I have prior violence. I have other felonies on my record. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't help me so much. But in this day and age, after 10 years anyway, applications don't even say that. Most of them say, have you been convicted in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
They don't, because they changed that law. You know what I mean? They can't go back forever on your criminal, unless you're trying to be, hold a license for something major. But, a lot of things that you can still get out and do what you need to do.
Yeah, so you have other convictions, so it wouldn't really help you at all.
If I had a clean record right now, it probably wasn't much at my age that I would try to go do with the clean record. You know what I mean? Outside, buy a bunch of guns or something.
Yeah,
or something like
I was going to say that.
Yeah,
You can go walk in the store and get a gun anytime you want.
Right. But I mean, it's not so like my life would change right now if opposed if I was 27. You know what I mean? Then I'd be like, hold on, shit, I could refocus my life and but at the end of the day, even on them expungements, man, there's ways they can go in there and see that was there, man. They can't hold it against you, but they can go see that if it was there.
Yeah, I wanted to visit someone in prison before, and the prison form asked for arrests. I thought you could only ask about, have you been convicted of a crime?
Right.
So the first time I filled out a form, I didn't even put no arrest. I was like, that's crazy. So they sent it back to me saying, I lied. You can't even, you can't apply for 6 months.
Damn.
So then I filled it out again, and I put like 3 arrests that I remember.
Right.
They said, oh, you lied. You didn't put all of them. You got
Damn.
You got 3 more. I'm like, well, if you know, why do I got to write them all down if you know?
I didn't know arrest, For
the CDC. To go visit someone in the CDC, they want me to put down arrests.
Damn.
I ain't never been convicted of a crime, so I figure I'm good.
Yeah.
But they're tripping on arrests.
Damn.
So, but yeah, I did see where some applications ask within the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool then.
Yeah, I mean, give. At what point do you forgive somebody? At what point do you feel that depending on what the crime is, but at the same time, at what point do you feel this man or woman then changed their life and headed in a different direction? If 10 years not long enough, I don't know what is.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up here. But I do want to let the listeners and of the viewers who are watching this on YouTube know that next week we're gonna talk about one of our most successful episodes so far, and it's that one when we talked about rats and informants.
Yeah, we're going to dive right on in there.
And we talked about Al Sharpton. Who else?
We talked about your boy.
Freeway Ricky Ross.
Yeah.
Oh, you stamped it for him, though.
Yeah, stamp.
And then I remember Anthony Brown that was in the county jail.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I was just surprised at how successful that episode was, because sometimes it seems like nobody cares about who's ratting and who's informing. But hey, y'all really tuned in on that episode.
Well, I'm gonna say like this: have you ever realized that some people might not really understand the dynamics of what snitching is and what snitching ain't? So they trying to get the full, understanding. Some people trying to get the full understanding. Some are trying to see where we stand on, our beliefs in it. Me, I'm coming diving off the high dive next week when it comes to that subject.
Yeah, understandably so, because you got sentenced to 120 months over this.
And I want to see how some people take celebrity snitching opposed to a guy that they don't know snitching, because I'll be tired of people picking their favorites. Oh, well, he didn't really snitch. What it was, no, this is a friend of yours, so you don't want to put the stamp on it. You know what I mean? Call a spade, and that's what we're going to do here on Streets and Scholars.
Okay, so next week we're going to talk about Tim Allen. We're going to talk about Little C's. We're going to talk about T.I. And finally, we're going to talk about Jimmy Henchman, a.k.a. James Rosemond. Those 4 dudes. And we're going to determine whether or not they're really snitches or not snitches. And that'll be next week's episode. So thanks for tuning in on this is episode 9 of Streets and Scholars. And where can they find you, FG?
Oh, you can find me on YouTube at FG Unleashed. You can find me on Instagram at FGeneral1. Tune in to YouTube, FG Unleashed, subscribe, like. I appreciate it.
And what upcoming interviews you got coming on the platform?
Oh, I got a few that I don't want to speak on, but I got a good one for you. I'll be honest with you. I just got to get out there, get it done, and it's coming together slowly but surely. So I appreciate the people that is tuning in. Just stick in there. We gonna get it going.
Okay, for sure, man. And you can find me at AlexAlonso101, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And, you could even email me at alexalonso@streetgangs.com. I don't mind that. And definitely check out my interviews on Street TV. I got, I got Gangster from Santana Block coming in the next, in the next few days. Gangster from Santana Block. And I got a couple cats from San Diego I'm going to be dropping. So tune into that. And leave us some more comments and reviews on the Apple Podcast page. And don't forget to subscribe to us on the other podcast platforms, Spotify, Google Play, and all that good stuff. And see you next week on Streets and Scholars.